In 1974, the idea of unreached peoples was not at all well established, but was proposed clearly. And from that point until this, there's a monumental change. Even Time magazine, in trying to sum up events, said this is the most significant insight in the latter part of the 20th century. And not that I had much to do with it, but the change of perspective is really phenomenal, and it's quite gratifying. The next step beyond the phrase unreached peoples underscores the fact that getting to a group of people within which there is no articulation of the gospel of Christ that is sensible to those people means that you've got there, but the question is, what now do you do? What is God's will for these people? What is it you want to do to them? Now that sounds imperialistic, and of course it's an unanswered question because we have to some great extent conceived of this as informing them of something. The good news is a phrase that's a good translation of the English word gospel, but not a good translation of the Greek word for which gospel stands. The good news that we're talking about is informing people of something that is very delightful and exciting. But God's kingdom, when Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, believe, he didn't mean assent intellectually. He meant yield to that kingdom. And to that kingdom, then, against the kingdom of darkness, we immediately confront the fact that when Paul spoke to Agrippa and talked about opening people's eyes, who already could see, but who couldn't see what was really true, and then delivering them from that darkness and from the power of Satan, this was a perspective that is not common in evangelical circles. So we don't go out to battle evil, although we are talking to people in the 16-foot ditch and we're saying, here's some Bible verses which may help you in your strife, in your trouble. We've got to get these people out of that ditch, and to get them out of the hands of Satan is a very significant part, which goes beyond simply finding unreached peoples. The question is, after you've traveled 18,000 miles, what about the next 18 inches you're going to go, and where are you going to go? What is God's intention for these people? What are you trying to see happen to them and to their societies from the standpoint of God's will? And that's a very significant mandate that will be the next step beyond unreached people discovery. It's also true that while you can complete the task of discovering unreached peoples, you can't necessarily complete God's task of his purposes for those peoples. So that when we battle evil, we know that evil will be eventually defeated, not necessarily at our hands. God is involved in this process as well. We are to occupy till he come. We're not very clear. The Bible doesn't tell us exactly how much human beings will be able to complete as distinct from what God intends to have happened. So that all interpretations of the Great Commission as a closure command really are not quite accurate or not quite fair to the Commission. The Commission doesn't say that this will complete the Great Commission. The Great Commission itself is simply an activity which we're mandated to pursue. And we can complete certain aspects of that task, but we have no knowledge at this point of the ultimate completion of God's purposes.